Previously on the Untitled Beatles podcast.
Okay, Hard Day's Night, LPs.
We're having like a Hard Day's Night month.
Yeah, it is the 60th anniversary.
And now we get to delve into both the US soundtrack and the worldwide pressing, both of which are among the legendary releases in the history of recorded music.
I kind of equate it with how we put out a podcast every week that is produced to perfection. It's like we are the Beatles of podcasting.
I know I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to say it with confidence. Dick Lester scored his own music for How I Won the War.
Anne Murray, of course, is the her in And I Love Her.
Like the way he sits in a chair, he's got the typical Lennon cop.
How come Wherever I May Roam wasn't on the Blue album?
Yes, and I think in society writ large, we're the Beatles.
No. Untitled Beatles podcast.
All right, we're still on side one. The penultimate track on side one is Tell Me Why. I've always liked this song. It doesn't register high in most Beatles, rankathons or whatever, but I quite like this one. No other Beatles song sounds like this.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I know we just talked Anne Murray, but I prefer Neil Young's cover of this that sounds nothing like it.
Tell me why.
Tony, the way this song kicks off, the drum riff, the guitar riff, they're clapping. You can hear them talking to each other in the studio. This song sounds so exciting. If this is one of the lesser songs on the Hard Day's Night album, we're still batting 900.
Tell me why you cried and why you lied to me. Tell me why you cried.
This song is incredible. It's one of John's kind of, what do you refer to this? There's a few on here, like the black girl group Motown kind of thing that he was going for. George Martin's piano in this is badass. This is any other band's biggest hit. The falsetto harmonies, Is There Anything I Can Do? Where is that in another Beatles song?
Yeah.
This song to me is so unique. It's an homage to Motown, but with its own Beatle-y thing. Ringo's triplets. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Tell me what. I mean,
Yeah.
if you listen to the Beach Boys cover of this on Party,
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Tell me why you cried and why you lied to me. Tell me.
God bless the Beach Boys. I know you love them. I love them as well. It's just clear that the Beatles' ability to rock hard is what separates this from other readings of it. This is a driving rock bluesy tune. I am team Tell Me Why.
TJ, you do sound pretty rock hard. Again.
3, 4, ding dong, ding dong. Think about Mark Grace. Think about Kerry Wood. Why is that not working? Oh no.
So yeah, John said they needed another upbeat song, and I just knocked it off. It was like a black girl group New York song. And yeah, sadly, they never played this at like a proper concert or on the BBC or anything like that.
It's never done live. And
No.
they mime it to the track in the film 7 keys lower, and that's it.
Yeah. An upbeat tune, but it's about like a difficulty in the relationship. Tell me why you cry and why you lie to me, which a little bit sounds like projection, from John.
100%. Whether he's singing as himself or a character, he had the ability to do both and often did both at the same time.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes the Beatles, Tony, when they sang To Me at the end as the chords are changing, those are weird, fucked up harmonies.
Yeah.
It's not a normal harmony. It's not a normal chord progression, and it all coalesces to a thing of beauty. It's such a Beatle thing. It's unexpected. It's weird, and it's eminently accessible.
Tell me why you cried and why you lied to me.
So, right. It's this happy song, but then it kind of takes this other turn here, that sadness that is kind of prevalent underneath all these songs, you know, like I'm happy just to dance with you, I'll cry instead. Like there's that chip on his shoulder Lennon thing happening a lot in these songs. And like, I think this is one of them. It's kind of disguised in this Motown swing, but he's kind of lashing out at Cynthia a little bit. Like, I gave you everything I had. And, you know, things like that. And Paul said, this is telling, Paul said, Cynthia wanted John to settle down, pipe and slippers. The minute she said that to me, I thought, kiss of death. I know my mate, and that is not what he wants. She got a couple of years of that, but he had to break loose.
And he rebelled so hard. Next thing, he's in a bag with Yoko. It's rebellion. God bless you.
Could you come out?
No,
Why not?
because this is a bag event. Total communication.
Are you going to come out of that bag?
Not during this press conference, no.
Pretty warm in there, isn't it, John?
It's getting hot, yeah.
But yeah, I've always liked this song. There's kind of a lo-fi quality to this song that, like,
Yes.
I feel like the vocals are sometimes in the red when they hit those falsettos, which I can't really make out what the hell they're saying. I just hear like, that's all I hear.
But it's always sounded
There's
like.
no words. That's just like,
Up till a couple years ago, I thought it was, is there nothing that I can do? But it turns out it's, is there anything I can do?
is there anything
That's
I
the
can
lyric.
do? Yeah. But yeah, good luck. You know, okay. Whoever. I mean, sure. So the difference is like in the mono mix and the stereo mix. To me, the drums sound more dry. I definitely prefer the mono.
Me too.
John's vocals single tracked in the verses. They are manually fading out the double track, so you can actually catch a bit of the double track in the beginning of the first verse, like, well, yeah, and then it goes single tracked.
Well, I gave her everything I had, but you left me sitting on my own. Did you have to leave me oh so bad? All I do is hang my head and moan. Tell me why you cried and why you lied to me.
And in the stereo mix, the drums sound more reverberated, and you can kind of hear the Beatles milling about before the vocals kick in, just like in the intro of the song.
That's what I was saying. They're hand clapping and they're kind of muttering a little bit, and it's raw. It's like when we get to When I Get Home, there's a rawness to the way this is recorded and performed that I think is great. It's not Beach Boys Party clean. It is Beatles raw and weird.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why I like it so much. Yeah,
Me
for
too.
sure. And then side one ends with the big hit, recorded before anything was ever filmed. It's Can't Buy Me Love.
I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so. Can't buy me love.
Yeah, this encapsulates Beatlemania, like, in the moment. This, to me, is a snapshot, along with Hard Day's Night. These are the two songs that say to me, like, 64 Beatlemania worldwide, not just in the UK.
Yeah, this is a sweet spot Beatlemania classic, no doubt about it. I have been biased since I got my hands on the CD of Ultra Rare Tracks Volume 2. I got it in 1990 in Mentor, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
At a store called Record Den, visiting friends of the family in the maybe it was called Record Den. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but it was in the Mentor, Ohio mall, and they had all these, and I got a couple of them.
That's crazy. They had bootlegs at the mall.
The whole store was like a weird old school record store that had I'd never seen that many bootlegs except at Wax Tracks in Chicago. It was the only time I'd seen it. So I was 15. I picked up, my mom was like, you can have 2. I'm like, I want 3. Mom's like, our family's having some financial problems. I'm going, I don't care. I'm 15. I've got acne. I love the Beatles. I want 3. And my mom goes, okay.
Veruca Salt over here.
100%.
Hey, Daddy, I want a golden goose. Here we go again.
Bunker, how much do you want for the golden goose?
They're not for sale.
Name your price.
She can't have one.
Who says I can't?
The man with a funny hat.
I want one. I want a golden goose.
Only I turned out all right, or did I? Next. But the original kind of countrified version of this with the fucked up guitar solo and Paul flubbing the words is still my favorite version.
Say you don't want the kind of thing. I'm say that you want the kind of thing the money just can't buy. 'Cause I don't care
Because one of the first 8 tracks we had in the car after the Beatlemania soundtrack was the Hey Jude 8 track. Can't Buy Me Love is the first song on Hey Jude.
Right.
I mean, I've loved the song forever, but Tony, this is a standout track that was already a hit that complements their escape scene in the movie so perfectly. And it's an A+ song if you've never seen the movie. And then when you see the movie, it's as exhilarating as any number in any musical ever made. This song is rightfully a classic.
So this was the number 1 song. It was their third number 1 in a row in the U.S. This is when the Beatles had the top 5 spots on the Billboard charts, starting with Can't Buy Me Love, number 1, followed by Twist and Shout, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and TJ, number 5, Please Please Me.
Yeah, where's From Me to You on this chart, buddy, guy? Buddy guy.
Well, that's on my favorite Beatles album, 6, because that reached number 6 or whatever.
V.I.
Yeah.
V-I-A-I. Yeah, and Tony, number 118 of the charts that same week was Ain't She Sweet on Octo.
Oh, ain't she sweet? We'll see you walking down that street.
This was actually, I guess, written for the film. I guess they knew the film was happening, and it was the first song obviously recorded for the film. It's interesting, though, that they didn't do a stage version of this song. I'm glad it worked out how it worked out, and we have the first music video in a way because of this song. But yeah, it's curious that it wasn't mimed.
Yeah, I think how do you top the energy of them running down the fire escape and on the airfield? I don't think you can top it.
Yeah, I guess they knew that was going to be that song because, yeah, it was supposedly I'll Cry Instead. It was
going to be I'll
that.
Cry Instead.
Right.
I think it was Dick Lester who was like, John wrote I'll Cry Instead for that scene. And Dick's like, no, you do not have a future in songwriting, John. You and Ringo need to be hairdressers. Let's use Can't Buy Me Love.
I've always fancied having a lady's hairdressing salon, or a string of them, in fact.
How different this is. What a change has taken place since the drab barber shops of pre-war days. Hairdressing must now go hand in hand with window dressing.
Yeah, so this is recorded in Paris, January 29th, 1964. The only recording session the Beatles made outside of London, asterisk. George did go to Bombay for the Inner Light instrumental tracks, but as a group, this is the only time they were out there. They only did 4 takes, the first 2 being that countrified version that you love so much. And then, yeah, again, similar to what we were talking about with And I Love Her, takes 3 and 4, now you have the song we know, that's a pretty big transformation just between takes 2 to take 4.
In a matter of hours, Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, in a studio that's unfamiliar to them, as you mentioned, where they had previously just done phonetic translations of I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You in German, as we talk about in the show quite a bit. Yeah, Tony, it's a great way to end a side. And as on the UK, we complete the movie side. What an ending. I always think it's weird that I know some years later, the Yellow Submarine album had All You Need Is Love. Even before there was a song track, you're getting a reprise of earlier songs in Yellow Submarine, including the title song. I was a little surprised that there was never an album made in real time that had the earlier hits used in the movie. Don't Bother Me and She Loves You. I'm surprised that those weren't included in some kind of Hard Day's Night soundtrack or thrown on something new.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we did make mention that a little bit, that the soundtrack could have been these other songs from the film, She Loves You, etc. Can I say something about this, though? The mixes. So the mono mix was made February 26, 1964. The stereo mix was done March 10th. And Mark Lewison made a discovery about this session in 1991. Documentation states that a drummer participated at 10 a.m., a union fee was issued, but a name was not listed because Ringo was busy filming that day. So Jeff Emmerich states in Here, There, and Everywhere that there had been a ripple in the tape, which took out the treble of Ringo's hi-hat in a few places. So it was Norman Smith who played hi-hat over those bits in the tape where the treble is out. So Norman Smith actually plays a little hi-hat while Jeff Emmerich recorded him simultaneously 2-track to 2-track on a dub.
Wow, here comes the story of the hurricane.
So there you go. Normal Norman plays on Can't Buy Me Love, apparently.
Wow. Hey, you know, as they'd say on Cheers. Norm!
Also, you might think that the first appearance of this on a Capitol record was on the Beatles again, a.k.a. Hey Jude in 1970. But, TJ, on August 10th, 1964, it was featured on the Capitol Cash Grab compilation, The Big Hits from England and the USA, featuring Beach Boys, Nat King Cole, Al Martino, Cilla Black, Peter Gordon, and the Beatles.
Yes, you are totally right. Just like Nowhere Man can be found on the 65 compilation Do It Now.
So
Capital Big Hits.
Get on that Discogs. Get that shit.
So we flip the record over to side 2, Tony, and side 2 opens in a way that I have always connected with the opening of side 1 with the Beatles.
It won't be long, yeah. It won't be long, yeah. Anytime at all. Anytime at all. Anytime at all. All we gotta do is go. I'll be there.
Because Anytime at All feels like an improvement over a song I already love called It Won't Be Long.
Yeah.
Anytime at All has got a similar chord progression, similar explosive energy, but I love Anytime at All. One of the things I love about it is the piano in this thing. The whole piano kind of guitar duet in the middle 8 is something you don't hear in other Beatles songs.
No, not a lot. Yeah, I love whenever George Martin comes in. Although, is this Paul? No, this is Paul.
This is Paul.
Paul's playing piano on this. Paul added that piano. John added the final 2 guitar strums. That's an overdub, by the way.
Sounds like an overdub. It's got a little bit of rollover Beethoven in it.
Written perhaps on vacation. John and Sin went on vacation with George and Patty in Tahiti. And yeah, I've always liked this song. I think it's great.
Yeah, this is a favorite. In fact, I'm playing piano at Magic Lounge tonight in Chicago. I play this on the organ every week. I do a Beatles every week. I do some obscure, like I don't do the Beatles 1 songs. So I do more obscure stuff. And this is one I love to play because the bass line, the descending bass is simple and yet so effective. It descends into like an augmented, almost minor thing before it resolves. It's incredible songwriting. It's exuberant 60s songwriting and playing. A favorite of mine, Tony.
And it should be noted that this was Ringo's last session before he fell ill with tonsillitis. This is the last thing before Jimmy Nicol came in and saved the day.
That's right. And one could argue that Jimmy Nicol was the better Beatle.
Jimmy.
If I had a Jimmy Nicol for every time we brought him up.
Moving on to one of my favorites from this record, right? I love I'll Cry Instead. I love that it's on the American album. I wish it were in the movie. I really think they could have used I'll Cry Instead during the Keystone Cops bit instead of Can't Buy Me Love. I know we already mentioned that, but saying it again.
That's okay. Why don't you buy the 84 VHS tape and see the kind of weird, like, college video project still images melding into each other?
I mean, honestly, you can just now with anything make your own mix, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll go make my own Hard Day's Night. That's the only thing I'll do is I'll just put I'll Cry Instead in there during Keystone Cops.
Tony, I made my own, not a bit, many years ago when like you could first burn CDs for cars. I made my own mix that had the mono versions of the songs I like. I made my Hard Day's Night soundtrack with the versions I like.
And that's when we were making CDs for cars, right, TJ?
Yeah, I remember we made CDs for cars. They're in my car. I go walking with you in cars. Newman!
Now, this song was released as a single, man. Well, in the U.S. It got to number 25, so not bad. Not bad.
They pulled a Steve Kerr. It used 25. Yeah, it's great. And of course, as we said, backed with Happy Just to Dance With You. And the mono version that was in print for many, many, many years is the one with the, in the States, is the one with the extended verse. They just took a repeat of the verse and melded it in.
I'll show you what your loving man can do. Until then, I'll cry instead. I got every reason on earth to be mad.
Not on the British version. I don't believe part of no British catalog.
Yeah, that edit is funny. I honestly, I prefer the short version. I mean, who cares? I don't know, actually, if I
Bloody
prefer
Beatles.
that.
Would you make I'll Cry instead 4 albums or 1? 4 albums. Oops. How come the White Album's 8 sides? How about the bonus gets too much Esher for me?
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, this is a bubbling brew of all of Lennon's insecurities. It's his anger, jealousy, self-pity, his humiliation, his revenge. It's all put into this upbeat country rocker. Cynthia called this song a cry for help. It reflects the frustration he felt at the time, she says. He was the idol of millions, but the freedom and fun of the early days had gone. So that also speaks to a little bit of the darkness brewing underneath this happy romp through Beatlemania. Is that they're already trapped by this point. Like the joy is basically right after America. It's all kind of like we are caged animals, like in the train.
Yeah. And before you even know what the song's about, he opens with a line he repeats. I got every reason on earth to be mad.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's an opening lyric of a song. I mean, other than "Run for Your Life," well, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. What Beatles song opens with that kind of anger?
I got a chip on my shoulder that's bigger than my feet. I can't talk to people that I meet. If I could see you now, I'd try to make you sad somehow, but I can't, so I cry instead.
I will say this, man, when I was a teenage dork and I was in the friend zone and all that stuff, I really related to that spiteful Lennon line about like, I'm going to break their hearts all around the world. That like resonated with me at the time. Like, you know, after just kind of being rejected and alone a lot, I was just like, yeah, I'll show you, you know.
Yes, Tony. And
you know, when you're that age, you know.
Yeah, I think we all feel that. Certainly, I mean, in our mid 20s, like John was, you know, when you're singing about that, you're feeling it. And Paul's bass, because I'm going to break him in two and show him what your loving man can do. A boom, 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 boom.
Walking
boom,
bass. It's something we don't get from him that much. It's great.
And it's countrified. And good God, Paul McCartney may not be the most impressive bassist of all time. He is the most tasteful and most inventive bassist in the history of rock and roll. He knows what to play when it's appropriate. He takes adventure on the bass seriously, and then he grounds it, whether it's something like Come Together or Something in Abbey Road or this, or going back to I Saw Her Standing There. Paul's bass is like a lead bass in this band, and yet it never feels like he's pulling focus. It's all rooted in support. I love Paul McCartney, and I'm saying it right now, and I'm going to think of Mark Pryor to calm down this Kerry Woody of mine.
Welcome to Wrigley Field, Mark Pryor.
Think Carlos Zambrano. Why is it not working? Why is it not working?
De El Toro Carlos Zambrano. El Big Zeta.
Think about the rubbery guitar that I like. Get rubbery, TJ.
Hey, get rubbery. Is it rubbery or rubbery? Hello, rubbery.
Hello, rubbery. Let's go to the rubbery and get some rubber.
I mean, let's go to the rubbery.
I like this rubber talk. That's how the guitar sounds to me in this record. It's a like it sounds like
countrified.
Countrified kind of Warner Brothers. I like that a lot. And yeah, Paul with the walking bass. There's some nods to Buddy Holly. Away, hey, he.
I'm gonna hide myself away, hey.
Yeah. And some nods to Buddy from Elf. If you sync this up to the movie Elf, it's fucked up.
I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing.
Hey! There's no singing in the North Pole.
Tony, Things We Said Today is one of the few Paul tunes here And yet it is like a weird minor classic. Even when this came out, this song has always been highly regarded as an early Paul song. Where are you with Things We Said Today?
I've always liked it. I remember it was one of the later songs I heard while discovering the Beatles. You know, it was one of those ones I was like, wait, what's that little song I'm hearing during the Complete Beatles? Right? Yeah. Don't they play a little bit of it in the Complete Beatles? And because I bought the American Hard Day's Night, I didn't have this song until I think I bought the CD eventually, because I didn't have, is it Something New, I think?
Yeah, this one's Something New.
Yeah, so I didn't buy Something New because it had some of the same songs as Hard Day's Night.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't want to rebuy that.
Yeah, it's got everything but A Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love, and I Saw Her Standing There, I think.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I like that spooky Paul song, that haunting one. Because, yeah, they're going minor. Again, they're getting away from holding hands and stuff, and now we're getting into more mature stuff. Written on vacation in the Virgin Islands. So Paul and Jane went on vacation with Ringo and Maureen on a boat named Happy Days. And ironically, it was off this boat that Fonzie jumped the shark. Same boat. So it's a very special boat.
Are you sure of that, or should we take a trip to Fonz Lover's Corner?
No, Fonz Lover's Corner is on strike. We are overworked with our Fonzarelli research. Wait, about this boat, though. So Paul wrote this song in the cabin. I guess there was this cabin below. He would get away from people. I guess he was sunburned and a little queasy. And I guess this cabin was near the engine, so it smelled like oil and stuff. But he was able to knock out this song, and maybe that's why it's in a minor key.
You say you will love me if I have to go. You'll be thinking of me. Somehow I will know. Someday when I'm lonely, wishing you weren't so far away, then I will remember things we said today.
One of the things Paul said about this song that is such a beautiful Paul McCartney comment, he described this song as exhibiting, quote, future nostalgia. And by that, he meant by being nostalgic about the moment we're living in now. That's a fascinating and pretty prophetic comment, future nostalgia. I think that became an Outkast album. Whose album is Future Nostalgia? Producer Casey, you're a millennial. Help us.
Close, but not close at all. It was Dua Lipa.
You want a timeless song. I want to change the game. Like modern architecture. John Lautner coming your way. I know you like this beat, cause Jeff been doing the damn thing. You want to turn it up loud. Future nostalgia is the name.
Yeah, so he says, so the song projects itself into the future and then is nostalgia about the moment we're living in now, which is quite a good trick. It was a sophisticated little tune.
So, a sophisticated little tune. I talk about it when I'm on a boat in 1994 and by the fire. And there's Wicks playing Eleanor Rigby on a keyboard. Speaking of Wicks, one thing I will say, when I saw McCartney in 89 and at Rosemont Horizon, I saw him twice on that show, once in 89, once at Soldier Field in 90, almost this time of year, July of 1990, when he wrapped the world tour up. But like I've said before, Tony, about seeing Paul when I was in 10th grade, there was no internet in 89. I wasn't going to Setlist FM. I knew he'd do hits, but he played the middle of the show, Things We Said Today. And that was the first obscure, earlier he'd done Got to Get You Into My Life and some Can't Buy Me Love. But Things We Said Today in 89, that felt like a deep cut. And I remember being knocked out by it.
It was, yeah. I would have been the same way. I think I remember seeing that on the Trip in the Live Fantastic CD, maybe?
That's right. It is.
Yeah, and being like, oh, cool, he did that one.
The only negative is it segues into a 20-minute solo where Robbie McIntosh is auditioning for Pink Floyd, and then they go into the slowest Eleanor Rigby known to man. Eleanor Rigby in Tribute to Life Fantastic is 6 minutes. It's somehow longer than the Broad Street version.
It's of its time, man. It's of its time when like every song was 5 minutes. Like Once Bitten Twice Shy does not need to be 5 minutes long.
Cut it down to 3:05.
I mean, but for real, right? I've always loved this song. Yeah, man, I've loved this song. The dynamics when it opens up, that is so great. When it goes into the major part and then the song just opens up. It's like opening the curtain in the queasy cabin and seeing the sun, right?
Things we said today. Me, I'm just the lucky kind. Love to hear you say that love is love. And though we may be blind, love is here to stay, and that's enough.
Yeah, I've always loved this song. I think it's a keeper. Honestly, like, I don't know if it's Red Album, but it would be on my Red Album. You know what I mean?
Me too. It is one of the, and again, Paul McCartney's got basically 3 primary songs on this, and all 3 are standards. It's not like 2 good ones and a weak one. If this is the least known one, Paul McCartney's in pretty good shape on a John-dominated record.
Yeah. Let's talk about this one, When I Get Home. The runt of the litter, the black sheep, neglected, the Generation X stepchild of the bunch.
And yet I love it, Tony. You must love it too, because it's rough and it feels a little sloppier. It almost feels like a McCoy's tune.
This to me sounds like maybe the closest thing to them being in Hamburg or whatever. Like, it's a stomper. Yeah. I've always liked this song. Yeah, it's like cut of the same cloth as Tell Me Why, but a little more, just instead of it swinging, this one stomps. I've always been into this song. It's an enthusiastic, like Tamla style rocker, oozing with the anticipation of guaranteed sex. Similar to Tell Me Why, people don't rank this one high. Who cares? Like, if you like it, you like it. I do like it. It's fun. It's good. It's sexy. It may be one of the few odes to Cynthia, you know, saying, I want to come home. I mean, maybe it's just for makeup sex or whatever. And it's, you know, but that's also a thing.
You know, yes, it is. If you wear red tonight, you know, Tony, it's interesting. This is one of the first examples of a struggle between Paul and John, and one of their first big rows in the studio, because John recorded this originally with the Beatles on a Monday, and John sings, I'm going to love you till the cows come home. Paul goes, hey guy, it's meat-free Monday. I'm not doing this. I don't want to sing about cows.
Monday, it's a fun day.
I feel, Tony, like in some respects, John's also trying to write a Chuck Berry or Isley Brothers tune with this. That's some of the vibe of this to me.
I've always liked this song. Yeah, it's got the rough edges. Yeah, it starts in the middle with the refrain, those woes. I love that late cymbal hit. I love that the guitars are doubling the drum fills, or the drum fills are doubling the guitars. Attention, Maureen Cleave. There's a polysyllabic word, trivialities, in here prior to help. I know I mentioned her earlier and I forgot to re-mention her. She was at the session for Hard Day's Night, and she did suggest that they change a lyric. But when I get home to you, I find my tiredness is through and I feel all right. Maureen Cleave said you could do better than that.
Yeah, I know. Maureen Cleave is the Beatles savior. Who needs Brian or George? You got Mo. Thanks, Mo. Tony, I do, like, I love the lines, no time for trick realities.
No, trivialities. I just said it.
But that's what I was going to say. For a while, I thought it was trick realities and trippy allergies.
Trippy allergies?
No time for trippy allergies. And what I love is you mentioned the whoa, which goes from minor to major. And I love that it ends like a sitcom theme. It's one of the few Beatles songs that ends like a sitcom theme.
I got a whole lot of things to tell her when I get home.
When
I Get Home is filmed before a live studio audience.
All right, well, let's do You Can't Do That. It's the penultimate song on this soundtrack, or at least the British version, I should say.
Yes, and Tony, this one, the B-side of Can't Buy Me Love, here's a nationalism alert for you. I did not storm the Capitol Records, but I want to hear the song Bathed in Echo on the Beatles' second album, because that's where it belongs, my friend. In America, we got the song before the UK did.
That is crazy, yeah.
I got something to say that might cause you pain. If I catch you talking to that boy again, I'm gonna let you down and leave you flat. Because I told you before, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, because it was recorded February 25th. On George's 21st birthday. So George could finally drink a beer legally, finally.
After years of taking Preludin, what is it called?
Yeah, Preludin. Yeah,
little pops, yeah.
Yeah. First song, TJ, recorded with George's brand new 12-string Rickenbacker. Again, the second one ever made. John's playing his custom Rickenbacker 325, and Ringo's playing on his second Ludwig kit. So, yeah, these are the first set of sessions after Can't Buy Me Love and all that, and right before the movie.
And is John playing lead on this? I always feel like John's playing that lead guitar solo, and You Can't Do That. The
totally sounds like it. That is totally John, right? It's got to be. It was written in Miami Beach in '64 entirely by John. He references Wilson Pickett as an inspiration, but again, Wilson Pickett didn't really come up with that sound till like the following years. So,
right.
You know, he's definitely inspired though by Tamla / Motown, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, black music, black rock and roll, R&B, rock and roll music.
Isn't he also influenced by Tom Skerritt and the show Picket Fences? Pull that clip from 92, guy.
Why did this song not make the film? They recorded it. It's, I mean, I guess time, I guess.
I read an interview with Dick Lester that said movies only have a certain amount of length, and in order to have a lot more plot, they had to make some tough choices and cut some songs out. Now, I don't know why this couldn't have gone in like when they're at the clubs, maybe when they're playing all the early stuff, but you're right. I'm sad this wasn't in the film because it's a great song, and in fact, there's 17 documentaries and books about the film called You Can't Do That, The Beatles in Motion Pictures. You Can't Do That, The Beatles and America. You Can't Do That, The Beatles in '64. It's like I feel like there's 17 different things. So, Tony, I'd like to see from an improv standpoint, you can do that. Yes, yes, can.
One of the most basic rules of improvisation is to say yes and.
Yeah, this thing was recorded and then the next day it got mixed. It was thrown on the B-side of Can't Buy Me Love, and it did make it onto the new Red album. So I agree with that. In
a great mix. The mix sounds wonderful. It's one of John's kind of four in the, what do you call it? Like a four in the bar cowbell type songs. And I think it's great. This, like When I Get Home, it's kind of sloppy file under rock and roll. It's a great rock song. This song's not pop.
No, man. No, it's definitely rock. And it was one of the favorite songs of the band to play at the time. They all liked playing this one.
Yeah, the lyrics, everybody's green because I'm the one who won your love.
Everybody's green, 'cause I'm the one who won your love. But if they see...
John doesn't even need to say green with envy. He just says everybody's green, which I don't think was a common phrase, and he makes it work. This is some of Lennon's best early writing, and the band's firing on all cylinders. And all the more impressive that we go into the final song on the album, and we have about as stark of a juxtaposition between not just the penultimate and final song, but this album, their third album, Tony, ends in the opposite way that albums 1 and 2 do, with what George Martin called like a pot boiler, Twist and Shout and Money. And now we have one of their darkest, most beautiful ballads, another top 15 favorite song of mine, Tony, and that's I'll Be Back.
Wow. Top 15 for you?
I forgot where I ranked it, but I love this song, the major minor push. This song has 2 different bridges. Hashtag Billy Joel in 1986, the bridge. Also, I will say nationalism alert, Tony, part 2. This belongs on Beatles 65 right after Honey Don't.
Drenched in reverb.
You know, if you break my heart, I'll go. But I'll be back again.
Yeah, Tony, I love this. And then at the end, he changes the words to you. If you break my heart, I'll go. He hits that so hard at the end. It's another John, not real nice song.
Well, yeah, he wrote it. It was inspired by Runaway. It was maybe even a gift to Del Shannon, who covered From Me to You in the States before the Beatles broke in the States as a way to maybe get their music out there.
If there's anything that you want, if there's anything I can do, just call on me and I'll send it along with love from me to you.
It's kind of the same chords. So Runaway, if I may, Runaway it's in A minor, right? And it goes, how does it go? As I
walk along, I wonder what went wrong to our love. A love that was so strong to the E7.
And then I'll Be Back, same thing, A minor.
You know.
No. If you C, G, F, and then E, half step down back to the A minor. So it's the same chord progression.
To the major. It goes to the major. To I'll Be Back again. Do, 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 do.
Oh.
Is A major. Yeah. That's what's so chilling about it, Tony.
Yeah, man. It's fascinating how you're able to be inspired by a song. You can kind of hear that, but I never thought of those 2 songs as being, cut of the same cloth until reading about it and finding the inspiration.
And Runaway lives on, and that there's a great Traveling Wilburys outtake with Jeff Lynne and George and Bob and those guys.
I'm walking in the rain, tears are falling and I feel the pain. Wishing you were here by me to end this misery. And I wonder,
That's one of my favorite oldies. That's one of my favorite pre-Beatles.
Yeah. And the Elvis version's cool too, with the James Burton surf guitar solo in it live in Vegas, 1969. It's great.
Never heard it. Can I hear it now? I've always loved this song because of my knowledge and history in the Beatles' American records. This was, quote unquote, just an album track on Beatles 65 for me. This is their closer. Every Beatles album, or maybe the vast majority, end with a purposeful closer. And what they're saying, I'll be back, and in the kind of minor way they're saying it, Tony, this hints at some of the exhaustion we'd see in Beatles for Sale. It's a major minor pull. They're happy, they're exhausted, they're overwhelmed, they're on top of the world. I think this is an underrated psychological look into where the Beatles were in 64, that this kind of minor song, a ballad, ends one of their most powerful, joyful albums. It is so Beatles, it is very unexpected, and I adore every minute of it.
I wanna go, but I hate to leave you. You know I hate to leave you. Oh, 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 you. If you break my heart, I'll go.
Yeah, man, I love that song. I think it's the best way to close that record because it shows that they're evolving. We don't always have to end with a pot boiler or whatever you want to call it. We can end hauntingly, and to me, that's more interesting.
Tony, when I say, I know we're going to quickly talk about the U.S. version, but I will just say to put a button on the U.K. album, there are certainly individual Beatles songs. I don't think this has any of my top 3 favorite Beatles songs, but I don't think there's a Beatles album that has more of my general favorite Beatles songs than A Hard Day's Night. I mean, it's not the hits. I'm Happy Just to Dance with You. Tell Me Why. I'll Cry Instead. When I Get Home. You Can't Do That. I'll Be Back Anytime at All. I love this album, my man. And the cassette version opens with I Should Have Known Better, and the ballads are on side 2. The 87 cassette is all the 87 cassettes are weird, but the 87 cassette of this one, it opens the album A Hard Day's Night on tape opens with the second track.
Yeah, like,
all right.
What are you guys doing? That makes no sense.
A lot of people on drugs in the studio going, all right, but if this song's 3 minutes and 8 seconds, but that song's 4 minutes and 6 seconds, then if we put this one inside 2 and this, it's like the guy who inspired A Beautiful Mind made the 80s Beatles cassettes.
Yeah, mathematically, they're perfect.
Right? And from a Beatles standpoint, they're fucked up.
Well, let's briefly talk about the U.S. album version because it is different.
Yeah, very different.
Less songs, 12 songs total, 4 of which are George Martin orchestra instrumentals. You get Hard Day's Night vocal, Tell Me Why vocal, I'll Cry Instead vocal.
And that's the longer version. Even in the stereo copies of this, it's the extended one, Tony.
It's true, yeah. Then we get our first George Martin instrumental, I Should Have Known Better.
This is silly. This is the silliest of the George Martin orchestrations because a couple of them are badass. And this one's fun. It's got it's like a swinging 50s version with the saxophone. You must love it because Sid Bronstein somewhere is blowing sax on this fucking tune. I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's the most fun of all these tracks. Yes, I always call it like the Brady Bunch music. Like whenever the Brady Bunch were listening to rock and roll, it always sounded like this kind of music, you know?
Sherwood Schwartz had his ear pinned to the music of the 50s and 69. Totally.
Wow, what a groovy outfit.
You dig it, huh?
It's out of sight. Far out.
Funky. But so some of the players on this are unknown. We don't really know, but it's speculated. So the drummer, Clem Catini.
I loved him on SNL.
I was just getting acupuncture on my hoo-ha.
Well, he was in the Tornadoes as well. So Clem Catini. So he said that Big Jim Sullivan was on guitar and Alan Wayhell on bass. Also, Vic Flick has been known to play guitar.
Cool.
He's the one that did the James Bond lick. I also played on Help. He did the Help runs too, that James Bond stuff on Help.
Well, and he did the James Bond lick in Octopussy.
Forgive my curiosity, but what is that?
That's my little octopusy.
It's also been rumored that Jimmy Page played on some of these sessions too, because he was a session man back in those days, a la Nicky Hopkins, and that's how those kids made their bread in the studio in '64. So yeah, he might have played on these. We don't know. Very little is known about him, but all these songs charted.
Yes.
In some way, because United Artists couldn't put out any Beatles singles. That was part of the contract, but they were allowed to put out the George Martin singles, so they did.
So they did, in confusing picture sleeves for the youngins.
Indeed. So that's perhaps the reason why this charted all the way to number 111. I should have known better.
Bubbling under.
The album continues with I'm Happy Just to Dance with You. Then we get the George Martin and I Love Her.
which has the Wayne's World moment. The
oh, the piano. Yeah, is that what that is? Yeah. I call this cocktail foreplay music for mom and dad.
And that's music you listen to before watching the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Listen to the Beach Boys and straight fucking.
So out of all the singles, TJ, this one charted at 105. That's it did third best out of all. No, it did second best. 105 is second best out of these George Martin singles.
This is what wealthy, boring parents would buy to show their kids they were hip. See, I like Beatle music. I do feel like this is being played right now in the cafeteria at Nordstrom's.
I would.
Right after Anne Murray's Happy Just to Dance With You.
Side 2 opens up with I Should Have Known Better, the version we know, and to If I Fell.
That I Should Have Known Better has full harmonica for you harmonica heads.
That's right. Yes, the fully edited version. If I Fell.
Mono, the best way to hear it. The mono version, right into mono and I Love Her. It makes side 2 of the American version indispensable. It really does. You could buy this on cassette tape. The last pressing of this was 92 on cassette. So throughout the 90s, you could get mono and I Love Her and If I Fell in a way you couldn't get them on the mono CD. There was different mono album and cassette of these two songs than the standard CD by the late 80s, early 90s. Beatle sniffing weirdos.
Yeah. That one, I see you keep track of that stuff. I guess I didn't.
Well, I'm lonely.
Then we get the biggest hit out of all the George Martin orchestra songs, Ringo's theme, parentheses, This Boy.
Which, for Michael Jackson reasons, we had to cancel, as we discussed in the film. It's Ringo walking around to this with a camera and a young boy looking for a way to find love. Find love. Paul wrote Young Boy about Ringo in A Hard Day's Night with a camera.
No. As far as I know, this is Vic Flick on guitar doing basically the vocal line, but kind of James Bondy. So Vic Flick on guitar, I think Chap Snaps on bass, and Judd Thuddets on drums. Thank you.
And everyone's getting fat except Mama Cass.
This charted, man, number 53. This was the B-side of the And I Love Her 45. So the B-side.
I love this one. I think this is some of George Martin's best orchestrating and arranging. I think this one is great both in the film and outside of it.
It's a good one, man. Yeah. Then we get the version of Can't Buy Me Love that we're familiar with, and yes, the American Hard Day's Night closes with the title track, but done George Martin style.
Which is done Dave Brubeck style. One of the best things about this is George Martin arranges this as an homage to Take 5.
Yet it's shuffling between 3/4 and 4/4 and then kind of 6/8 in the middle.
Yes, in the bridge, the easy listening moment, 6/8.
So it's not in 5, but it feels like 5. That's pretty cool. Yep.
It's an incredible way to end the album. Then that weird kind of fun sax riff to end it that even I enjoy in the tenor saxophone. It's really neat with a kind of suspended chord there. Look, this album, Tony, as I mentioned, was officially out of print from 1992 until 2014 when it was reissued as part of the Beatles' Capitol albums. And the original Capitol albums, it was not included because they deemed it a United Artists release. So in the early aughts, when they reissued Meet the Beatles and second album on those on CD, this was not included. Capitol deemed it a United Artists album, even though Capitol had owned it in their arms since 1980, which was real weird. But I think this album, which was the fastest selling album in American music history, no album sold more copies this quickly in America than the United Artists A Hard Day's Night album. It's a curio. You don't technically need it, but if you're a Beatle fan, you do need it. For the mono And I Love Her, the mono F.y.e, and the important George Martin contributions, I think this album is indispensable despite being forgotten about for a generation.
It's good, man. It's good. I will say this. I give the US version 3.5 fabs, and I give the UK version 5 full fabs.
I'm giving 5 fabs to both because I still believe in Lady America. Everywhere around the world. I'm so glad, Tony. I know we got to go, but I'm so glad that we talked about this album finally. We waited a while.
Yeah.
And sometime last year, we go, let's just sometime in New York City. What's the lead track? I feel like last year we talked about doing it in honor of its 60th anniversary.
Yeah.
I wonder if there'll be a fully remixed box for this. I've heard nothing about it.
No, I haven't heard anything like that. No.
I mean, there's talk from the Paul camp about a reissued Back to the Egg in London, Tom, but I think instead they should issue McCartney 3 again with slightly different packaging.
Yeah, I want like puce colored vinyl. I'm tired of looking at my neon green Walgreens only exclusive vinyl.
Oh, dude, I've got 75 different versions of Beck doing Find My Way. I don't. That's where I had to. TJ Shenoff must not collect all the records. McCartney 3 Revisited or whatever it was called, was my bridge too far. That's my Mind Games box, which I haven't bought.
That was your bridge to Babylon, TJ. You became a Stones fan after that.
Anybody seen my baby? If I just got a song correct from Bridges to Babylon, I want more money. Tony, so fun doing this with you, my friend. We have a lot of things coming up, including maybe at the time this airs, we're close to Beatlefest. We're going to have content from there. Even though I'm not on Discord because I'm trying to eliminate social media, I'll be back again. You know, if you break my heart, I'll go.
That's
right.
But
I do want to sincerely thank all of our listeners, Tony. But I'll be back again. Scoo-doo-doo-doo. We'll see Tony doing that, and you know what to do at Beatle Karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
Rosemont, one night. That's great. Under the stairs, nobody showered since the previous Wednesday. Let's all do She's a Woman in the Wrong Key.
Untitled Beatles Podcast. Like and subscribe